Yo, yo. Yellow. Right, right. Alright, I think we're ready to start. Alright. So, here we are. This is the fourth edition here, the fourth episode of DM and the PM. And I have my man. Are you actually going by that name, or are you still going by Toasted? Yeah. Did you rename your channel to that, or are you still? Right. All right. So we got Toasted and or Man Powder, and we also have Marcius, both of which have played in games of mine, and wanted to come on today to, yeah, and shoot the shit and talk about all the things D&D. So last time what we talked about was different player types, and yay, Parley's in. Yeah, we talked mostly about diversity in role playing and like how we can spread the word, right? We had Rick on here, and we talked about different types of players, and so what we're going to talk about today is kind of getting into the game. How do you do that? What's the best way? And setting up a session 0 and what the heck that is and how you do that. So yeah, so I suppose before we get going here, both Manpowder and Marcius, both new to the GM scene. So how's that going for you guys? Nice, good to hear. And what do you want? You just did one session, or have you done several now? Yeah, nice. So, anyway, welcome to the world of GMing. It's awesome, it's super fun, and your players are gonna love you for it because it can be a pain. And you two, man. The adversary, yeah. Parley's over there. He's just like, they're not coming through. Okay, hold on. They're not coming through because they're not loud enough, or what? I'll let. It should be. It normally is. Oh, that's why. Good. All right. Thanks for letting me know, man. That happened the other day. That's why it didn't record all the stuff. So, they aren't coming through, period. They should now. Wait like 20 seconds. Everybody say blah, blah, blah. Make sure it's good.
Yeah. I'm not going to say blah, blah, blah. I'm not bloody Dracula from Hotel Transylvania.
Blah, blah. Alright. So, unfortunately, they didn't catch any of that. But so, long story short, these guys are new to the GM scene. They were saying how kind of it's... a few sessions in, it's going good. Manpowder, actually, he just had his first session 0 yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, that was.
Or was it? No, that was
Friday.
Friday.
That was Friday your time.
Yeah, Friday. So that's awesome. So we're gonna talk about session 0. So you'll be a good one. So, and just quick question: did you run a session 0 in yours, Marcius?
A little yes, a little no.
Little yes, little no. All right.
Started out as a session 0, but it devolved into something else. Gastic players.
It nearly devolved into something else in my session, but I managed to reel them a bit.
Well, we play in person, so everyone was just ready,
okay.
And they were chomping at the bit, ready to go.
Yeah, I play on Roll20 for this group.
All right. So, the first thing here, let me get my my topics ready here. So, boom. All right. So, getting into the game. So, what do you do if you know you've heard about this great thing called either Dungeons and Dragons or Shadowrun, Call of Cthulhu, World of Darkness? You know, there's all sorts of different even editions of all these games, right? So you hear about this thing, right, and you want to get into it. You know, I think first order of business, right, is you pick a system, and I think for a lot of people that ends up being Dungeons and Dragons, or if you know you have your buddy, you got your older brother, you have whoever it is, right, that runs a game for you. Um, but what happens if you don't have that, right? Um, well, how did you guys get into it, for starters?
Well, for me, the way I got into D&D period is just sort of Nick dragged me into it, really. He sort of said, hey, by the way, I'm doing this thing. Why don't you join along? I'm like, yeah, okay. Not really knowing what I was getting into, and sort of really enjoyed it since. But as for, like, the system, well, I've only really played 5e, and it just feels like it's pretty open to interpretation alike, so since I'm doing a homebrew campaign thing, I figured it would be the best for it.
What about you, Marcus? I know you've played a little bit, right?
Actually, I've played a little bit with you, and my very first D&D experience was a Dragon Age game. So that was a long time ago, but I've kind of been interested in it in like D&D and tabletop gaming for a while. I just kind of didn't know where to get into it.
Yep.
Those who are popular, the Critical Role that my friend wouldn't stop talking about.
Yeah. Many of people watch that in other podcasts.
It happened on you. He was actually running a game, so we jumped into it.
Yeah, and it was super fun. We talked about it for what, like, the better part of a year before we actually did anything.
Something like that.
Yeah, so
That part was that was real enough.
yeah, so it can take a while. So
Yeah, for me, I just sort of had an interesting idea. I'm like, yeah, you know what? Screw it. I'm just gonna make this game out of it. This seems like it would be an interesting idea. This seems like it could really go in a bunch of different directions. I've never had an issue. I've never had an issue sort of coming up with things on the spot. So worst case scenario, you know, a little bit of improv.
for real, yeah, it's definitely a good skill to have as a game master, I'm sure.
5e has been the best, in my opinion, to start with because it covers all the bases without being too complicated.
True.
Like Call of Cthulhu, I've been hearing a lot about.
Yeah, some are definitely more complex than others, and it really depends, I think, too, on what sort of game you want to play, right? So when you're picking a system, and you're like, what system's the best, right? I think some of it depends on the genre. So what do I want to play? Do I want to play a horror game? Do I want to play something that's more kind of a dungeony crawl? Do I want to play just high fantasy or sword and sorcery kind of feel? You know, even inside some of these genres, there's like sub-genres almost. So when you figure out, you know, what kind of genre you want to play, right, it informs that a bit. Like, for instance, one of my favorites is Dread. And
That game you promised us.
yeah, which I haven't done yet, lack of time mostly. But it is amazing. It's super fun. But it's something you can't really play over the internet, so which is another tough thing. But like the rules in that game are almost non-existent. Besides, you know, you just make a story, you role play, and you just pull. It's just playing Jenga.
Awesome.
Yeah. But so other I don't know, other things when picking a system. Sometimes it's hard. It's like, do you try and find a group, or do you try to pick the system first? You can go either way, because some people, like if you have nobody, I find it's easier with all the tools online at your disposal. Just pick a system. But sometimes you have like a group of friends, right? And you're like, I don't care what I play. I want to play with these friends. Um, so yeah, what elements are you looking for in your game? Fun, killing orcs, exploration and story, role-playing, expression, whatever it is, right? Uh, and then you do some research, right? I end up finding that, for instance, in my shoes, where there wasn't really a lot of other people that I knew that wanted to play at the time, I was just like, you know what, D&D is a name you know, a name you trust, right? So some of its popularity, right? So there
Right.
are some very obscure games out there, and it's not to say that any of them are bad, right? There's tons I haven't played, but sometimes it's finding a group, right? If you play 5th edition, you can find a group, no problem.
Yeah.
What are you running, Toasted?
It's
You're wanting to be called.
It's Manpowder Toasted. It doesn't really matter for me. But I'm running 5e because, like I said, it's a homebrew campaign, and I was literally sort of thinking about it, and I really liked the idea, and I started playing around with it, and yeah, ended up decided to just do it 5e because it leaves the most open for interpretation, and also it's got rules and systems that are pretty easy to sort of play around with to create some homebrew mechanics or household rules maybe for your campaign. You know, like
That's what I ended up doing too.
Yeah, so certain ways, certain interactions with creatures, certain role systems, like it really does. It just makes my life a lot easier when I'm trying to come up, interpret all these things. Because my campaign, no real spoilers. It's my interpretation of the Monster Hunter universe, so I have to, sort of interpret a lot of mechanics
Awesome.
and, how certain creatures, act, how certain how, for example, even magic will interact, because magic isn't traditionally in Monster Hunter, so I have to sort of play around with that, and change the
Cool
setting
though.
and
It's
the
great
legs.
space.
Yeah, and that's sort of something I really wanted to do, and yeah, so now I'm after 2 weeks of work, it's getting close to session 1 for this, so yeah, definitely looking forward to that.
So homebrew ability, right? Put that under one of the attributes of picking a system. D&D 5e
Yeah,
is a good one for that.
Easy to manipulate.
Right. I mean, I don't think you can just graft anything onto 5th edition. Or maybe it's not the easiest or the most fitting, but you can graft a lot of stuff on there.
Yeah, the way I'm doing it is simple enough. It's just, instead of it being, a whole new class or archetype, which I've tried doing in the past, like I've done homebrew class, I've done homebrew archetypes. It's a lot of effort, like trying to balance all the skills and abilities together, so that in the end you don't have this completely overpowered character, but it's not complete garbage either, and so that it doesn't feel like it's lacking, at any point along the way. Like it's really slow early on, and then later on, it's all of a sudden it's some kind of god-slaying archetype. It's no. I'm just doing the way I did it is there are hunter weapons, which the actual game, you have your hunter weapons, and these weapons sort of just innately let you use these skills. So if you're using this weapon, you get to use this skill. If you're using this weapon, you get to use this skill. And each weapon has 1 or 2 skills to sort of emphasize that play style and feel from the actual games into a
Good way
D&D
to mesh them.
perspective.
Absolutely, man. And so how many things have you come up with in that so far?
Well, I've got, there are actually 14 unique weapons in the game, and then that's without even getting to the specifics of, like elements and, like elements, resistances, ammunition for some of these. Like, it's a lot of things to actually come up with. But the weapons themselves I've come up with and got developed, I believe I have 7 or 8 out of the 14 done so far.
Nice. And you're doing that's all Monster Hunter, right?
Yeah, it's set in the Monster Hunter universe. It's sort of my adaptation of it. So it's not just a copy paste from the Monster Hunter games. The actual creatures, I'm keeping. I got really lucky and found a monster compendium for the Monster Hunter creatures, which is amazing for this. But then from then on, it's all homebrew. You know, sort of who's in this world, what's the goals, what are the people doing. Like from then on, like that's all homebrew. It's just sort of the setting, I guess. That's Monster Hunter.
Nice. So you got your system, right? You got your setting, you got your homebrew.
Oh yeah.
So once you've chosen a system, right? You know what kind of game you want to play. How did you find your group? How is it that you find a group, especially those of us who, like myself, right? Everybody from high school went their separate ways, and it's like, shit, I want to play, but
yeah.
nobody's available.
Yeah, with me it was, I'm doing an online campaign, so it was, just people I either already knew from previous campaigns, so, like Weiler, like Kyle, Swarm, Nick. But also others, it's interesting how many people you sort of find that do play, D&D, like just sort of bring it up, like you bring up that, oh, I have a D&D campaign in an hour or two, so I have to get off now when you're playing some other game, and then 2 or 3 people speak up, oh, you're also playing D&D, that's cool. And you sort of just realize just how many people actually play D&D that you didn't know about. So I had a good couple people sort of that just played, and I, reached out to them, 1 or 2 answered, and then I also posted on the forums of Roll20 to find someone else, and that's where we got BattleBot.
Yeah, BattleBot.
But no, like if I was trying to do this like a real life, gather around people, like actual people, not online, yeah, it would be a definite larger challenge. Like we have a real life game going here in Macau with some university friends, but wow, getting those people was a struggle. Like it's a lot harder in real life, so I can imagine.
Feel that.
Yeah. Oh, there's certainly pros and cons. So, like you said,
I think that's interesting because you're playing online, and I am playing more traditional, like everyone comes over, gather around the table game.
Yeah, I'm playing both. My game is online, yeah. Ironically enough, both of these are on the same day. I DM in the morning, and then I play in the evening.
Very nice.
Sounds like fun. I need to get me a game. I'm trying to hook up with my buddy right now. Try and join a game so I can play for once. So that's
actually a really interesting one, because one of the players in my campaign, BattleBot, he's been playing D&D for 9 years, right? And that entire time, he's only ever DM'd. He has never played a character, so this is his first time actually being a player character in 9 years.
Other side, so.
So, just real quick, so I linked some stuff in chat, right? It's RPG Table Finder, which was made by the YouTube channel Bacon Battalion, how to be a great GM, how to be a great player, whatever. He's got multiple things, and anyway, it's super cool. You can use it to find people and get in on a table, and then I put 2 links to Discord channels, Bacon Battalion and Matt Colville. Super great communities.
Oh, I watched those videos.
Yeah. Just, super good people in there. That's a couple of resources that I got for you. It's Guy. I know that guy. So, yeah, so for sure. Like you were saying, us nerds, we love other nerdly things. So, yeah, it's like you said, I feel like I'll talk to somebody and like the weirdest people will be like, oh man, you play D&D? Kind of like Marcius, like kind of a friend, right? And
kind of what happened to me is I mentioned to everyone I work with that I was running D&D, and they just kind of popped out of the walls.
Yeah.
The whole crew at work is like, oh, I'll be part of your game. I'm like, no, someone has to work.
A Lottle League coach. I love the typos. It's great. I love how he takes 10 minutes to get around to saying anything of importance. That is true. So social media. Social media is a great one. The Twitter D&D community is super strong. You can find some people on there, right? There's Discord groups, other gaming groups. If you have an online presence, guaranteed there is a avenue that you can figure out some sort of tabletop stuff going through there. And it's great for some people that are introverted or people that want to play text-based games, especially, to reach out to these people. It's not really a free-for-all, but I have two people, so it's you know. Yes, the local gaming store is on my list, man. I gotta make my way through the list. So, yeah, common places like Marcus was saying, school, work, regular hangouts. Dude, even if you know nothing about it, I guarantee you, if you talk to enough people and you're like, I really want to play D&D, or I really want to play, this tabletop game, I'm sure you'll find somebody.
There are at least 3 gaming stores in our area.
Yeah.
Because I know that we live near each other. I don't know where everybody else is, but...
Yeah, I'm not so fortunate here. Like, I live in Asia, and D&D isn't as prominent here. Like, believe me when I say I've tried. And that's actually one of the cool things that we're trying to do with our group. Like I said, we got a sort of real-life D&D group going here, an IRL one, and it's run by one of my professors in university. And if we get enough people in the actual group, like in real life, right now we have 7 people, though 2 of them haven't shown up in like 3 sessions, so we're debating those 2. But if we get 8, we can actually turn it into an official club in university, which means we can get some funding. And then something we're trying to do, sort of set up an actual D&D community here in Macau through that.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
Try and spread some D&D awareness around here.
Yeah, we're kind of talking a little bit about spreading some awareness, though. I don't know.
This dwarf has to walk 3 miles a day to get a pint of beer.
Yeah, it definitely
Oh,
helps
God.
when you can use funny voices and all that.
I'm not that
Like
good
half
yet.
of people, you're like, no, I don't want any. That guy's a fucking weirdo. And then like the other half are like, yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Wish I could do that.
My players, though.
Yeah, you'll make more friends than you'll lose.
Yes, as long as the highs are higher than the lows, right?
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead. What were you saying, Marcus?
I can't do the voices myself, but you would be surprised what some people turn into when they get around the table. They get very excited.
Oh hell yeah! Oh yeah, for sure,
I always
man.
have a good time, at least.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with, like, you don't have to do funny voices. You don't have to do any of this stuff, right? You can do like totally monotone,
Cool,
like,
though.
I like it, but some people find it distracting, right? I find like if I don't hold myself back, I can be like too flamboyant, right? And then people are just like, shut up. Like it's just me talking to myself, and it's like, no, Dylan, you need to like shut up, right? We're the heroes.
Well, I actually have to sit across from the people I'm making the funny voices at, so I can see their faces and how horrified they are.
Well, you can practice in the shower or like in your car or whatever when nobody's around. Just listen to something.
This is how I test my accents. Whenever I go and meet some new friends or some friends of friends in real life, I'll do one of my accents, and if they're convinced by the end of the meeting that that's my real accent, I've done a good job. So my English is actually apparently quite good.
Right. I mean, it's a little strange though, right? Not everybody has that sort of confidence or lack of self-respect or whatever, whatever that takes. Right? Yeah. Yo, Pearly really gave up on voice. That's the spirit, Pearly. If there's one thing you get from this, it's don't do voices. Just give up. Just give up. No, so
Don't give up.
yeah, no, don't do that. So yeah. Anyway, so common places, yeah, school, work, regular hangouts, etc. Go ahead, do it. Talk to your friends, talk to people. Like Pearly was saying like 10,000 times, here it's on my list. Local game shops. If you're lucky enough to live in a place where there are game shops, go to them, check it out, right? Most of them hold like D&D or some sort of event, right? And most of the time it's free and or cheap. Like I know the ones that are in my area, you can just drop in, but you gotta get in with with the DM. I don't know if you can just sit down. I've actually never done it because I turned to online and I was fairly successful with it, but I've seen other people and I know other people that have gone in and tried it and said like, oh, this is great, like I finally found a group and whatever. A new group, who dis? Yeah. Force people. So, if you're new, right?
You never know who, if you mention it, who will jump at it. Because I
Yeah.
had a lot of people just come at me like, "Oh, you're doing it? I'd totally be into that." And I would have never pegged these people for players.
And I think one of the things is, it not only is there that sense of like, I don't know, like, are they gonna be into it? Like, you don't want to put yourself out there or like be like, I'm a weirdo because I like D&D. It's like, you know, whatever, just own it. But I think a lot of it too is there's a lot of players, there's not a lot of DMs, and
That's why I picked it up in the first place.
right, and you know, go ahead, give GMing a try. You know, nobody is perfect. It's a continual improvement, right? And you know, you'll be surprised if you just go to people and be like, you know what, I want to try it. Guess what, guys? I'm gonna go ahead and try running a group. Especially if you hit the online scene, like you can get players in like 2 seconds. Like you just snap your fingers and there's hordes of them, like in line. So
it was insane.
yeah,
About a day after I posted my forum, you know, looking for players in Roll20, my phone just blew up with notifications.
right.
It was
So
bloody insane.
Cool.
there's certainly, if you're willing to give DMing a try, whether you've played or not, you know, I think it's really easy to find a group. And that doesn't mean you need to be the DM forever, right? But I think it's a good way to find a group. Run a couple of one-shots, give it a go, and then you have front-loaded knowledge of like, wow, this takes a lot of effort, or man, I got to do this and that. And I think it creates a lot of respect for what the GM has to do, right? Because there's a lot of things the GM has to do.
I would agree with that.
Because they love you, and you should love them. End of story. So,
yeah, that's something that's interesting. A lot of people are very reluctant to jump into these sort of leadership roles, and it's not until you actually get into it that you realize just how much work is actually involved with it.
Oh my god.
But a lot of
fun,
people, yeah, and that's another thing. But a lot of people don't realize as well, like how much fun it can be, and how good you can actually be at it. Like some people, you know, they're really shy or they're really sort of they just don't want to do it. But then they hop into it, like just thrown into the deep end, and it turns out they're actually really good at it. Nick, you know, threw himself into the deep end as a DM like a good while back. People really liked his DMing style, like his more sort of free, just on the spot style. And it leads to some absolutely hilarious moments. Some, you know, there's its awkward moments, you know, obviously, because there's only so much sort of, you know,
So much you can
improv
prepare
can come
for.
up with. Yeah, there's only so much you can really improvise, but oh my god. There are some absolutely hilarious moments in that campaign. But yeah, like really, even if it seems like it might, even if you think, maybe this is not for me, or it's a lot of work, or I'm not a good leader, or I'm like just not outspoken, seriously, give it a shot. You have no idea how good you can actually end up being. You might be the best DM in existence and not even know it.
absolutely, man. You don't know if you don't try. And
Once I started, it actually started coming much easier.
yeah,
Oh yeah,
and
true.
like, so talking Marcius, right? How many, you haven't played that much, and you pretty much stepped up, right, to be a DM, and so far,
Did.
you know, I've heard good things, right? Because there's a mutual friend in the group, and we kind of
Oh,
know
I
each
hope
other
so.
anyway. We know each other anyway, but you know, from what I've heard, right, everybody's having fun. It's a good time, and especially if you just tell people like, I am new, I want to get into this. People are really supportive.
Well, that's
Rick,
the thing
Rick,
is I have a really good group, and they give me a lot of really good feedback, and they kind of let me flail around a little bit if I'm unsure.
yeah. And I think that goes both ways, whether you're a GM or a player, just like as a person. I feel like you should be open, right, to critiquing, you know, because if you're new to anything, it doesn't have to be role playing. It could be like playing an instrument, right? It could be like cooking. It could be like whatever it is, right? If you start off as
For each
skill,
session,
right?
I have them talk to me and tell me, okay, what worked, what didn't, what do you want to hear more of or less of.
Right. And once you flex those muscles, right, and you get some of that feedback, then you're going to be like Ultra DM. So
thanks.
yeah, I think that's kind of a good shortcut though. So if you're looking for a group and you're like, man, I can't find in because, and I have this a little bit actually, is I was like, man, I don't really feel like running a game right now. I'd like to play for a little bit, and I would get to a post on Roll20 forums, and there would be like 200, like every single post would be like 200 applications, and it's like, there's no point. There's no point in me even putting it in because it's like, it doesn't matter, right? So if you want the shortcut, try being a DM, and then find the group that you want, find some players, right? And see if one of them wants to run a game. You run a game this week, they run a game next week, alternate, or whatever. Like, I feel like that's a good way to just instantly get into a group, start getting into it, and then I think people are too afraid because, oh, I haven't been a player. Like, there's some sort of natural progression I need to play, and then I level up eventually to GM. And no, I think you can start either way,
Yeah, definitely. Only reason I, took this long is because, for one, I didn't even know what I didn't really know D&D until about a year and a half ago, so I was just getting to the D&D sort of, yeah, I was just getting to D&D period. But, after a year and a half, I sort of realized, okay, I started having all these interesting ideas. I'm like, oh, that could be cool. Oh, that could be cool. That'd be a cool thing to do. Ooh, what if that happens? And I found myself in these sort of thoughts in the background, in like every campaign over and over and over and over. I'm like, screw it. I'm just going to do my own campaign. And that's sort of where it came from. It wasn't really me having the need to become more experienced or anything. It was just sort of, I had enough ideas of it. I'm sick and tired of sort of just hoping for it. I'm going to do the campaign myself.
Right.
Well, it worked.
Hell yeah. I think there's certain satisfactions and creativity that you can't do 100% as a player because you're at the mercy of the setting, the world, the plot, whatever, and you have a little more freedom as a DM, and just the act of world building, the act of whatever it is. Some people just like it because power.
World building has been great.
Yeah.
Like telling a story.
Pearly.
That was always really nice.
Pearly, you can do it. You can do a one-shot. I was running one-shots, like, just on the fly. Like, you do not need a lot for a one-shot. You can be like, here's, like, a battle and a puzzle, and then just sprinkle some other stuff in there. Do it. 2 games and you're running up there. You're running a game? I didn't even know you're running a game, Pearly. Maybe you should be in here. You should jump in the chat. Talk about it. So yeah. So you choose, right? I'm just gonna go over here. Right? You pick a system. You find a group. You choose who's the DM, who's the player. Is it gonna be you? Whatever. Sometimes you can be the DM to find a group. And then I think a big one is set a schedule. I think a lot of people just want to like play whenever, or they're too willing to be like check a box. They're like, I want to play every Monday for the rest of my life from 8 to 10, and because they want to play, they're willing to squeeze like shift their sleep schedule, or they're willing to, I just think that in the long term, unless it's just like a one shot and you're like, oh, I'm just gonna like play tonight and stay up late. If you're gonna do anything committed, right? Make sure it's something that everyone can commit to and they want to. Like, try not to stretch your schedule. Do something that's comfortable, because I think that's where a good game starts, is when everybody's comfortable. If you're playing when you're tired, or if it starts to feel like a chore, then it's not fun.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely had my share and tried to schedule things. Just coming up with a schedule in general. Like, when can everybody play? When can you play? When you're up to it? When you're not busy? Can already be a challenge. Now, add on top of that, most of the people I'm playing with live in America, and I live in Asia. It's about a 13 to 11 hour difference depending on which coast you're in. That
can be hard.
Yeah. So when I was coming up with this game, I hadn't gotten my schedule for a second semester university yet, so I was, I had to be pretty adamant. Okay, it has to be on a weekend my time. I'm sorry, because I don't know if I'm gonna have classes on Friday. I don't know if I'm gonna have classes on Tuesday. I don't know if I'm gonna have classes on Thursday, and I don't want to sort of midway through the campaign have to go, hey, sorry guys, I have to shift the schedule now. Yes, I know you've played for 2 weeks, I know, but sorry, I just can't do it, and then I have to lose somebody who's already put all that much effort in it. So I had to sort of say no to a couple of people because they just didn't fit the schedule, and that's where we settled on Friday your time, because Friday evening for you is Saturday morning for me.
Right.
Now that I got my schedule, I can see that Friday, that I also have no classes on Friday throughout the semester, so Thursdays are also open. But I'm just going to sort of leave it as an open day now in case anybody has an off day or maybe something happens and we have to move the schedule around. But it's good to have that extra sort of open slot. That's another sort of thing for not wanting to fill in your schedule too much.
Yeah, and sometimes you just want to take a break, you just want to take a rest. No, don't feel bad whether you're a player or GM. Like, for instance, if you're under the weather, or if you're like, you know what, I'm just really tired today, I haven't gotten a lot of sleep this week, I've had a couple times, and just be like, sorry guys, I can't make it tonight, I'm not feeling up to it. So don't, once it becomes a chore, it starts to lose its fun. So,
Yeah.
that's just
You're not having fun, you've done it wrong.
Yeah.
And this is coming from somebody who has multiple times signed up for too many games as a GM and then gotten the, oh shit, but you keep going because you have people that are depending on you, right? But it goes both ways. Even as a player, I think there's still that you feel guilty, you signed up for it, you have to go. And I'm not advising you skip on games all the time, but you reevaluate, be like, is this really a schedule that works for me? Maybe everybody can schedule to a different day or a different time, or maybe the group's just not right, So,
yeah,
word from the wise, because I've done it. Just pick a schedule that works for you. Eventually, you'll find some people, especially if you're a GM. You can set any fucking weird ass time because there's people all around the world and they all want to play in your game. Guaranteed.
Yeah, and it's, again, like I said, it's not just burnout, you can definitely get burned out pretty quick if you're doing 3, 4, 5 campaigns a week. Having those many games in a week, it really closes up your schedule. It makes it a lot more likely that, oh, you're gonna have to skip a game because you have to do something somewhere else, like you have a birthday party coming up for one of your close relatives, or you have to go somewhere else to do some legal stuff. For example, in my case, the Brazilian embassy is in Hong Kong, which is an hour away from where I live, so yeah, there are days when I have to do legal stuff. I have to spend an hour going there, half an hour in immigration, an hour coming back, half an hour in immigration. That's not counting the actual legal process there. So, there are days that I just have to say, yeah, no, sorry, I'm busy today.
Ow.
And, if you have like 3 or 5 games a week, it's a lot more likely that that's going to hit on one of those days. So having less of those games, not only does it lower your, not only does it make it so you're less likely to get burned out, but if you do have one of those really busy days, if you have 3, 4 open days and everybody, it gives you sort of that opportunity to say, okay, hey, that day I can't do it. How about this week, we try and, let's talk about schedule. Okay, everybody's open. Okay, so we'll run it one day early or something just so we can actually have the session this week. Sorry, I can't do it the actual day.
Right. And I think that's certainly okay every once in a while, or you never know. I've been in a group where it was a wild card. It was just you would play, whenever people were like, whatever, and it wasn't really a serious game, and that's fine. Like, if that's what you want to play. I think the default I'm talking about is a story heavy, like a consistent, the gaming day or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever, as long as everyone's on the same page, you can schedule whatever. I think.
Kind of where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
Because my whole team is in my group. People doesn't come down the right way. We're like, oh, well, I guess D&D is off this week, which is awful, and I hate it. But
that sucks.
Yeah.
Well, at least you can. I don't know. You can hang out with us, I guess. Who knows?
True.
Maybe you can come DM a random session. I'll play an NPC. We'll just see where you take it.
Oh, you'll get to play for once.
Yeah. So,
I'm thinking about that.
when you schedule, though, right? There's time, of course. That's right. Everybody thinks of time, but there's also place, right? make sure you schedule a place that is it's a safe place for everybody, right? I think that's, you don't want people to feel unsafe at your game table. But also, like, are you doing online? Are you doing offline? If you're doing offline, right? If you're kind of like Marcius, is it always at your table, Marcius, or is it like wherever you guys want to be?
It actually is out of our home, out of our apartment,
Well, there you go. And you're
and it's
comfortable
like
with that?
the
Like
halfway point.
you like people being in your home every time?
These are people I know.
Right. Well, I know, but sometimes people are like, like I don't want to have people over today, or like I don't want to have to clean the house or whatever.
It's been working so far, but we've actually had our players volunteer, their apartments if we ever wanted to move the game, just so we could have our own space. It was like a respect thing. It was really kind of them.
Well, there you go. Yeah, as long as everybody's on the same page and
I think the thing is, too, is I cook for my team. Big dinner, and then I'll run D&D for them, so they get a whole, evening of it.
So this is literally the best. Everyone find out where she lives and go to her house for D&D.
I mean, it's true. If I had more players around, I would run more. I'm a good cook, too.
It's like my buddy Anthony, he's actually coming on next week. And anyway, he does the same thing. He cooks for everybody, and I feel awful because every time I go over there, right, he's got this magnificent fucking feast before he runs a game for me, and I'm just like, I feel your pain, and you cooked me dinner, like I feel so grateful, and every time I see those people and they just eat his food, they play the game, and then they walk. And I try and help him do his dishes. I try and do something or bring a dish.
Oh no, I don't let them do that.
Yeah, I was like, just don't be a pushover.
On the spread.
If you're the GM, or you don't even have to be the GM, because sometimes there's the players and they're like, come to my house and I'll buy snacks and I'll do this because they want to play. Spread the love, right? Everybody chip in. Don't have one person buying all the snacks or whatever, right? But
Well,
when you set your
when you come over, we'll cook for you too. Don't worry.
All right, I look forward to it.
A dread game. I'm holding you to it.
Yeah, you should, as you should, as you should. I will run for you. So, and if you're doing online, right? And I got a bunch of links here. Where are you playing online, right? That's a big thing. There's virtual tabletops galore. I'll link some below, right? I personally use Roll20 because it's free. I got into it at a certain stage where I've put in a lot of effort into having all my stuff and it's all set up, and I don't want to do that again. But there's some good alternatives, right? There's Fantasy Grounds, which I'm not a big fan of the UI in Fantasy Grounds, but some people really love it, and especially if you're one of those people that buys all the content, you can actually save money over time because they have sales and blah 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 that other platforms don't have. There is this other one, Rollgate, which is a text-based one, which I've never really done. I've done a little RP forum in the past, but I've never really done a game, a campaign text-based, but I hear it's all the rage. A lot of people do it. So, check that out. And then this is a newer one, Astral Tabletop, and I've heard really good things. They have some cool dynamic lighting sort of things like Roll20 has, but they also have advanced weather features. It's pretty much been on my list to check out. So if anybody here is bored or is like, oh, what am I gonna do? Do that and then let me know how it goes, because that'll save me from some having to
do the research.
Set everything up. But it looks cool, right? But there's Skype, there's Google Hangouts, there's Discord channels. You don't even have to have a battle map, right? You don't have to have a virtual tabletop. You can just talk it out, right? Theater of the mind. But whatever it is, right? Set it in your schedule. Come on, guys. We're going to meet every week at 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock on Discord every Tuesday, every third Tuesday of every other month. Whatever it is, it can be obscure, but just set something in stone and hold people to it. I think that's make a schedule. Simple as that, right?
Yeah.
It should be.
Yeah, and surprisingly, like, I've weeded out a lot of players that way, because I'll be like, here's the schedule. Everybody has the schedule. And then they don't show up. And they're just like, they never talk again. Or they play like 2 sessions, and then they ghost, and nobody's like, what the fuck? What? Why?
Ooh, yikes.
But, you know, so, and I think this next one is a little bit more on the side of if you're playing an offline game, but you know, get some supplies, right? What sort of supplies do you guys have? Mountain Dew, Cheetos, whatever, minis, maps, like.
I went a little crazy buying things.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have my supplies to buy, but it's more on, the tech side. Right now, you're hearing my headset mic. I did actually get a new, like, more... I wasn't to say professional, but like a proper good mic, which I don't really use, for just Discord, just because, it's kind of like... you're gonna use a Lamborghini for driving across the garage line, No, this is for recording and for streaming. If you want, I can really quick sort of hook it up and you can maybe listen, but... Yeah, I might use this for DMing, I don't know. And the rest, is just my... And the rest is just my workstation. It's a Razer Siren X.
Nice. Nice. I've thought about getting some stuff. Right now, it doesn't work well for me because the headset is an all-in-one package. And I have, like, kids. I don't know if you can see in the background, but, like, this room's a mess. Like, it's not, like, my long-term setup. It is just, like, the place where I could stick my computer, Which, no, totally, it's fine. I'm just saying, just me personally, I guess.
I just had a table to begin with. I got a gaming PC and, just game because I wanted to, game with something that wasn't a laptop that ran every game with such a low FPS it looked like a slideshow. But then I kept adding to it. Got a new keyboard, got a new mouse, got a new controller, headset, microphone. Eventually I got a drawing monitor instead of just a regular monitor so I can actually draw on this thing. And it just kept building up, and now I have it's messy because it's me, but respectable workstation, Some proper equipment here.
Yeah.
Like, if I had to put a price tag on this, Christ, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, it would be about $3,000 around.
Wow.
Damn.
So,
like, all of the setup together. So
before everybody just runs from chat, you don't need to spend $3,000 to play D&D.
I'm just somebody who's spent a lot of time developing their workstation, or as I call it, my man cave now.
Well,
only if you have real dedication, you have to spend $3,000. But
this wasn't all for D&D. This was for a bunch of other stuff.
All right, so we got one end of the spectrum. We got $3,000 computer, which for other things are not, right?
Yeah.
What's the bare minimum, right, that you need to get started? What do you think, Marcus?
Oh, dollar amount?
No, what actual things do you need?
Books. Whether it's PDF or physical copies, handbooks at least.
Yep. Yeah, PHB, player handbooks, absolutely. That's pretty much a must.
Couple sets of dice, and it depends on your DM. If you're like a very creative, if you're able to express the world, you don't really need much more than that. Pens and paper.
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna link here. So I'm just gonna link D&D Beyond. D&D Beyond. So in D&D Beyond, you can create characters and all sorts of awesome mumbo jumbo for free. They do have obviously paid things to have like the other source books. There's additional source books for their expansions, if you will, and in there they have the SRD, which is essentially the literal bare minimum you need to get started. They also include those in compendiums in some of the other things I linked here for like Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, Astral Tabletop. They have those integrated in, which essentially comes stock with like, here are basic classes. I think it has like fighter, cleric, wizard, rogue, and it has them all the way up, I think. And it has like their stereotypical like subclass. But there's monsters, there's all sorts of stuff. You can find it all online, right? If you look up D&D SRD, a lot of other ones have SRDs as well. You know, if you are just completely poor, like I want to spend $0.00. I'm not gonna bring a fucking one Cheeto to play. What do I need? Right? Just get the SRD and
That's
you
how
know,
I started. You
like,
you gave me the DM guide, but
yeah.
I used online guides for the longest time, and then one of my players showed up with all the books in hand.
Oh, that's awesome.
Borrow these, and I'm like, oh, thank you. Oh my god.
So yeah, you know,
Nice friend.
you don't need $3,000, right? I would personally
Yeah.
suggest though, you know, buy the player's handbook. You don't need the Dungeon Master's Guide, to be honest. It's a fun read through. I've read through it like twice, and there's some cool tables.
Helpful.
It's some very good inspiration, but I feel like once you get going, you don't really use it after you get going. But it's cool when you're starting out. Some people like DM screens. I personally don't use them. I like that, like, I'm gonna roll a dice, and no matter what, like, that is the number, right? And people like that, because I'm like a simulationist sort of DM. That's my style. But other people like that. They like to roll behind the screen, so that way the players are in a constant state of flux, right? It does give you more flexibility. You can be like, no, they rolled a 20, but it's actually a 19 because I don't want them to crit you. You know, like, you can just bullshit however you want. And people, for the most part, don't know, as long as you have, like, a level poker face, right? But, again, I think bare minimum, right? You could play with the SRD. You could spend literally, like, there's websites where you can buy dice for, like, $2, right? And with the shipping, you go on, like, Amazon Prime or, like, whatever, you go to your local game store, if you have some around
You
you.
went to the game stores.
Yeah, even, like, we have other shops that aren't game stores that they just have like a bin of loose dice, and they're like, here's 25 cents, like at this random store, like most if you live in the US, like Walmart, right? If you have any sort of like big stores that are wherever, I don't know, wherever you're from, right? If you really wanted to, you could get real creative and be like, well, screw that, we're not doing any other dice instead of D6, and we're going to use our Yahtzee dice, and instead of a D8, this is just going to be 1.5 D6. You know, you just, I don't know, be creative, right? Like, you can run some stuff in a pinch.
I mean, if you have any sort of electronic device, you can just roll it that way. Like, there are plenty of things, you know, you can just, like, ask,
apps.
you know, you can just,
App.
not even app, just on Google, like, you can just type coin flip, coin toss, or random number generator and just make it 1 through 20. That would simulate a D20.
Absolutely. So, yeah, if you don't want to spend even a penny, you know, you can make it happen. That and everything in between.
Totally can.
I
Yeah,
think
even in the IRL session, my supplies, I actually have them digitally. Just I find it a lot neater. So character sheet and my dice. Well, he actually has dice there. Like, our DM has a dice, so we roll there. There's a little bit of a there's just a little bit of a feel of rolling an actual D20.
Yeah,
But the
that's
actual
sad.
character
Love rolling
sheet,
dice.
yeah, but the actual character sheet I keep digitally because it's just neat. It, you know, saves me a lot of mental math. You know, if we hit level 5 or something, like, oh, proficiency at level 3, you know, it's a lot harder to be like, oh shit, I forgot I had that +1 to proficiency. That would have gotten over his AC. Damn. You know, like, it saves you from a lot of those moments. So I do like using it, at the very least, digital, like the Roll20 character sheets, just because it's neat and it's easy to edit.
For sure. That's one thing I like about, I've used D&D Beyond just a little bit, is you can keep track of all your stuff on there. It's super cool. But there are some other ones. What was it? I think it's Orc Pub? Yeah, I think it's Orc Pub. And yeah, I know it's a weird name, but you can create characters on there and save them to like a cloud sort of a thing. It's super cool. There's all sorts of these resources where you can save character sheets and you can just print them out, or you can just like have them on your phone or whatever. You don't, again, spending the bare minimum, right? A lot of people like to have battle maps, right? You can just have graph paper. You can just have, I don't know, you can literally just take a ruler, right, and just draw like a little grid. You don't even have to
That
have
was
a
my
grid.
one little indulgence. Is I got a specialized like it was almost like wrapping paper, but it was like
Yeah, it's a, oh, what
I've
do you
been
call it?
drawing maps and it's really really fun.
Oh yeah, I'm trying to think what you call it. It's like 1 inch by 1 inch, like easel paper
Yeah.
something.
The
I don't
guy
even
at
know
the
what it's
store
called.
told me what it was called, and I cannot think of it right now.
Yeah, but yeah, no, it's kind of like is it more? Do you get like the waxy style, or is it? It's kind of like wax paper with a grid on it, or do you get like
I wouldn't say it's wax paper. It's like literally closer to wrapping paper.
yeah, and it comes in a big roll
Go
though.
all over it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
It's
yeah,
nice to have like actual maps.
for sure. But even without one though, you can just have them and be like, yeah, this is like you can just theater the mind it like, yeah, that's like 30 feet, right? You can estimate it that way sometimes. That's just fun. You don't have to play super tactical. You don't even have to play with miniatures, right? You can have fucking gummy bears, right? And you just be like, oh, this one's dead. Like, oh, like just eat the fuck out of it. But you know, I think there's a lot you can do. I love all that stuff, but you know, I think as long as people have like, if you can bring a pencil, maybe a calculator if you're really bad at math, but even then it's very simple depending on what edition you choose, what system you choose, right? If you suck at math, don't choose one that's super complicated. And you know, bring your DM some Cheetos or whatever, and you know, I think it's how much do you
the
want?
Cheetos done.
Yeah. I don't even want Cheetos. It's just the first thing that's stuck in my mind. So, I think it's a issue of how much you want versus how much you need. Because like, if you want to play, you can play today. Like, you can get the stuff and fucking play. But the one thing I will say before you play, and I rhyme all day, is don't put it all on your GM, man. Like, that's why I always feel terrible when I go over to my buddy's house. I'm like, I gotta do your dishes. I gotta like do something because like he has every book, and I'm like, I would love to have every book. I have the books I want really bad, but besides that, I'm like, no, like, screw that, right? It's so much money, right? So
So much money, but I love books.
they're awesome, right? But I don't know.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned drawing earlier. Yeah, something that Dylan will be all too aware of. DMs love at least having some kind of an artist in the group or something. It's a lot of fun having somebody who can actually draw things out. But as my advice to other artists out there, hide!
Oh no! What did he have you draw? All of it?
No, he did. He wasn't too bad, but I've had other people on campaigns bug me 24/7. If you're an artist, unless you're prepared to have a like text like somebody, oh, can you draw my characters doing this? Can you draw my characters doing this? Oh, how about that scene? Oh, how about that scene? Oh, we did that. Remember? Can you draw that? Hide.
or counterpoint.
Yeah.
Definitely pay your artists if you ask them to do a thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Pay them for it.
I wish I was good at art because my imagination is like, here's this creepy thing, here's the Lady of the Wood, and I'm just like, I wish I could draw that, you know.
Yeah.
But I spend so much time thinking up all this noodly shit, right? That I waste all the time I could be spending on my art skills. How dare I?
Yeah, I think it's cool having an artist in the group because, you know, sort of just, but leave them alone. Let them, you know, draw when they want because then you sort of get some more, you know, actual thought out things that they think is cool and they have put more effort into it. And if you're gonna bug an artist, be prepared to spend some cash, eh?
Yeah, support.
Oh,
You know, buy the metaphorical Cheeto for your artist.
Yeah.
And a coffee.
Yeah.
You may not realize it, but those drawings take time.
So, both of you guys, just assuming you had nothing, and you could only have one thing to run a game, what would it be?
I can only have one thing.
Yep.
And assuming I had absolutely nothing.
0. You have nothing.
I-
You are in a
I'd
cave
get-
with fellow adventurers. That's it. Oh,
I'd
yeah,
get
yeah,
some.
you got
I'd
the
get
cave.
some. I'd have some clothes because I don't feel like DMing naked.
I mean, that's your prerogative.
Yeah, well, that was assumed, but now we know what kind of person Manpowder is. I think that says a lot about you.
Don't dodge it. Right. Now, if I had to pick something, honestly, at this point, I'm pretty familiar with the rules, and it's easy to sort of quote them and say, okay, this is that, this is that. So really, I think I just want, if we're in a cave, a piece of chalk, but anywhere else, just a pencil or something, just so I can take down notes. Because as good as I claim to be at coming up with things on the spot and having some cool adventures and all that, my short-term memory is absolutely horrible. Like, I will forget things really quickly, so I need to take notes, of what players did and what things happen, so that I can move it along.
Nice.
Like, really, I need to be able to actually take notes.
I just imagine you, and there's like a boulder to your right, and you're just like, nobody look on the other side of this boulder, and that's where you're taking notes. Okay. What about you, Marcus?
I mean, running caveman naked D&D.
Well,
I
mean,
honestly think that
doesn't have to be caveman or naked, but okay. That's where this
choose
is
your
going,
own
so.
game, Dylan. Jeez.
Right, well, if that's your game, that's fine. I want to join the game, but
No, I think I have a little red D20 that I kind of use as the they're getting real dice.
ooh, tension dice.
So I think
like
that's the only thing I'd keep. I can figure out monsters, and I can keep track of players pretty well.
I like that.
So I think I would keep my red die of fate.
Respect. I like that. I have an affinity. I think I've said this like multiple times. I'm a simulationist, right? I would probably have some sort of method of randomization, like a dice, is what I was gonna say, because I like just throwing it out there, and everybody being like objectively like, yeah, that's what would happen. Like, they might like it, they might hate it. Sometimes it backfires on me, but like, that's just my style of play. I like to know that like, I didn't mess with that. Nobody messed with that.
I know what the red dice is for. If I think something is really cool when they pitch it at me, I'm like, okay, roll this one and see what happens.
Right. Well, awesome, guys. Awesome. So, I think this is one of the most important things, right? So you pick a system, you find a group, right? Who's the DM? Who's players? Are there 2 DMs? You're swapping off whatever. You set your schedule. You get your supplies. You get the Cheetos. You get the red dice, and then you hold a session 0, right? And I think most people know what a session 0 is, even if they don't actually know what a session 0 is. If that makes sense. But essentially, here, let me change the topic. Session 0. So, session 0, which we'll let Manpowder explain a little bit, because he had his first one. Essentially, people coming together to talk about what they want to play. Talk about themes, plot, setting, house rules, make characters, whatever. It is essentially the session before the session, right? To get everything set up so you can just play next time. So
yeah, it's getting rid of all the background things out of the way before you actually start playing out, like what people want to do, what do they want to focus on, how much are they comfortable with is like a big thing, like really. Like, no, you can be amazing at describing these super dark, these super graphic scenes, but if your players want to have none of it, all you're doing is making them uncomfortable,
Right.
So making
Absolutely.
sure that's definitely something you want to discuss beforehand.
So comfort level, big
Good
one.
advice.
Yep.
I have a thing where I picked it up from like GM Tips with Satine Phoenix. She had somebody on there and talking about essentially like a color-coded system, right? Where I could ask everybody, whisper them or whatever, and be like, hey, just send me like how comfortable you are, right? It's green is go, right? Yellow is like kind of like boundary. Red is like I'm super uncomfortable, right? If you have a lot of dark adult themes in your games, which I sprinkle in there occasionally, but I try not to go super overboard. But you know, it's definitely good. What things don't you like? What things do you like? You know, because we're all here to have fun, so it's cool to tell a fun story, and sometimes that means exploring the darker parts of, you know,
Yeah.
being human or otherwise. So, but you know,
Yeah,
Sure.
there's
definitely. Cause I
respect.
mean, you want to have some level of darkness, like in your campaign, like because here's the thing. Let's say you have, you're the super happy character, like nothing wrong in your life. You have a perfect family, 3 kids, dream job, dream place, dream wife, and then an adventure comes up to you and is like, "Hey, you want to fight? You want to go fight this dragon? It's really dangerous. There's a very good chance you'll die.
I know.
You'll be out of this house for like months and months, maybe years. You'll get injured. There's a good chance people might die. You want to come with me?" My response would be, "Fuck off."
Right.
As in,
Right, happy people don't go off delving dungeons and killing dragons.
Right. It also
most
informs.
don't, yeah.
Some do.
You know, it
You
informs.
should meet our Bart. He's very happy.
Informs a lot about that character, right? If they have the perfect
Yeah.
life, you know, maybe there's financial trouble, maybe there's whatever. But yeah, some level of, unless you're playing like a jovial game, right, where it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Yeah, you
agree.
need a problem to be overcome for there to be motivation. Whether it's said, it could be financial, it could be a struggling point in life, it could be maybe some darker part, a very dark past. I've played with you, Dylan. You've seen you've seen what I do in terms of darkness, and I've gone above and beyond that in other times.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I definitely talk with my players, and we hit a sort of a interesting point, which I think is sort of the sweet spot, which is they're perfectly fine with these super dark things, like these things that would make even somebody who regularly delves into the darker side of comedy, like a little bit uncomfortable, just sort of the mention of the words, things like, and I hope you're fine with me saying this in your stream, Dylan, some of these more heavy subjects.
So heads up, everybody, we're gonna hit some heavy subjects here.
Well,
Leave
things
now
that
or
make some
forever hold
uncomfortable,
your
like
peace.
Mention of
some
heavy.
some things that are a little more,
Yeah.
uncomfortable to speak with. So things like rape, for example, torture, these sort of things that you think about, and it's like, oh, right, let's not talk about. Like, it's like, well, yeah, it's dark, but
Right.
really, like that would fuck you up, like mentally.
Oh hell yeah.
Seeing somebody you care for in that situation would fuck you up mentally. That is a very powerful sort of scene. That's a very powerful. That can
Motivator.
set up a lot of powerful. Yeah, it's a powerful motivator. Yeah.
And I think
if
being able, and especially if you're talking about realism in medieval eras and the likes, that happened, and
Wrong.
often. So it's something that people need to be prepared for if they're going to, if that's what it is. So I definitely ask players, if they're comfortable with this, and they say, yeah. And sort of the point we hit was, okay, we're comfortable with it. We're perfectly fine with it because it's something that will happen and something that, again, it's powerful for story. But we don't need to know the intricacies of the act.
Right.
Unless
No,
we ask for a
absolutely, yeah.
description.
You can gloss over it. You can, yes, there are better ways to describe and whatnot those dark things, but I think as long as you have, right, you're having this session 0, it's all about communication. As long as you have that good communication going on, right? I think most of the time, right? I don't think I've never really described like a rape, right, in a game, because I feel like a lot of times it's off limits for most people, right? And understandably so. I think it's one of the most disgusting things that you can do, right?
Yeah.
But I think that like for instance, when we had, what was it, Tuck, right? And in Tuck's lair, there's the woman chained to the bed. It's inferring
Yeah.
it, right?
Oof, that's a scene.
But it's, again, it's a scene that's like, whoa, this is going on. This is a thing. This isn't just, you know, it's not just a game, right? There's some shit going on here that's
It
pretty
kind of pulls at the
unsavory.
heartstrings and makes it personal.
Yeah. And it can be powerful, but also, yeah, setting that up. I think,
Just within the limit.
yeah, again, having some sort of system, people know, like, this is what I want in my game. This is what I really don't want. And sometimes that means that a player needs to find another group because everybody else is like, we want this, and one person doesn't. But a lot of times it's the opposite. You can find that everybody except you does not want that. You know, and you might need to reflect, like, do I need to go to a different group to explore those things? Or I think in the right company, it's not necessarily bad, as long as you're sharing those things with other people that are comfortable with sharing those things.
Yeah. These are dark topics, and even people that, even people that are, let's say, comfortable with the idea, it's still, you still might be uncomfortable sort of exploring it at times, but, that we delve into these sort of uncomfortable areas for a reason. These parts are here to tell a story. These parts are here to actually set a plot in motion. So even though it might make you feel uncomfortable, I'm not just making you feel uncomfortable because I want your evening to be ruined. I'm making you feel uncomfortable because that uncomfort, that really sort of helps sell, how messed up this place is, or that really sort of gives you motivation to want to deal with this issue.
Be heroes and fix the wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. That's why we play this game, is because we're insignificant in real life, unfortunately, many of us. So we want to be significant, right? So
what are you insinuating, Dylan?
No, I'm just saying, I'm as a general
I am
rule.
significant, so.
Yeah. So why you should have a session 0? We talked a little bit about that, right? But why do you want to have one, right? I think one of it is it weeds out players that aren't serious.
That's true.
Or it weeds out players that they don't fit. Doesn't mean that they're not serious. They might be looking for a jovial game. They want to play a chaotic neutral barbarian that bites deer necks, and they just like do whatever the fuck, and that's cool. But that might not be, everybody else is like, see, Bitterman, I was really hoping to explore the more unsavory parts of humanity and bureaucracy and whatever.
There are no deer necks there.
Yeah. So like, it just doesn't match up. Doesn't mean that either side's wrong, but exactly sets expectations and boundaries, Shadzar. And when you do that, you make longer running, more fulfilling games, right? Because everybody's on the same page. So, one thing.
That's a good introduction point too.
Yeah, no, actually, that's good. I was going to say, introduction point being, it gives people an opportunity to meet before they play, because it's already awkward enough unless you weave in the backstories, which I highly recommend for the most part. But if you are, especially if you're playing online, you've never met these people, and you're like, do I do a funny voice? Like what am I gonna do? Alrighty, it gives you a space to try those things out, and also to be like, oh, hey, yeah, Shadzar, what's up, man? Like, you get to meet the player, before you meet the character, and that makes it, I think, at least half awkward.
Yeah, it definitely helps deal with that, initial awkwardness. Like, at first, essentially, everybody's going to sort of be, unless it's a group you've played with before, or people in real life, there's going to be that sort of awkward, hey, how you doing, hey, yeah, nice to meet, that sort of just weirdness. But really, like, after you spend an hour or two just coming up with shit, talking about the session, what you want, what you don't want to do, sort of getting all these creative ideas going, you start opening up a lot more, because, you're trying to be creative, trying to help out, you start opening up, and before you realize it, you're just completely open with a lot of these people, and, like, Session 0, like, really, I'd say even less than half awkward, like, by the time you're on the Session 0, like, if you did, a full-out creative Session 0, most people are going to be just entirely comfortable sort of just sharing and being open in the party like most of the time, and that really helps out with session 1.
Absolutely. So Marcus, you said that your session 0 was like kind of a session 0, but not a full session.
Little.
So how did that go?
Well, like I said, my group is kind of consistent of people I work with and people who know each other. There's actually so it's people and their significant other. So we're all terribly close, and they came ready with their characters, ready to go, and so it kind of shifted from session 0 to kind of same evening.
Yeah, it was like pretty much session 1.
The session 0 part of it was good to like hammer out characters and get people more comfortable with the world. But I mean, they came with sheets and voices, and they were into it.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah,
so,
my session 0 was also relatively quick because, I met up with the actual players, coming up with the schedule and all that. And people were really excited by the idea of the campaign. So, we were constantly talking before session 0. So before session 0 even hit, really, most people, I sort of already gotten people all, introduced to the actual world lore and the idea. So session 0, we sort of just got straight to the point, about, like what do you people want, instead of, having that sort of first hour or so sort of explaining the world and how getting fit into it. So it was a relatively quick session 0 for me as well. It was an hour and a half, I think it was.
So did your players pretty much know what they were going to play before the session 0?
Yeah, we had a bunch of sort of smaller one-on-one sessions, I guess, or 1-on-2, 1-on-3. Like session 0 is where we got sort of the full group together. But yeah, we generally, I got everybody together like at least once or twice, one-on-ones there, and people were just really enthusiastic about getting the game going. So for the first 3 or 4 days, yeah, it was all day on Roll20, having one-on-one sessions with people, sort of explaining, okay, this is how the world is. And it does actually really help you develop the world out, certain things you might not have thought about, So we have a wizard and an arcane trickster in my campaign. So, they really sort of, talking with them and sort of thinking about this in the context of the world, it really sort of helped me solidify sort of what the magic is like in the world, and then
That's good.
technology as well with some craftsmen. Like, it really does help you come up with the different perspectives, because, this person really wants to do magic, this person really wants to build shit, this person really wants to explore. And it really makes you think, okay, so how's that gonna work? How's that gonna work? What's this? What's that? And before you realize that you have a bunch of places and things planned out just from talking with your characters.
Right?
Right. I agree. So were you all on a common? Was it more of you playing the middleman, for one-on-one for each person, or was everybody kind of talking to each other? About like we want to play this, or is everybody's like I want to play this kind of character, and that's
before session 0, it was kind of like the middleman thing. We got a bunch of people sort of getting on at the same time, like 2 or 3, but never the full party. And then session 0, everybody sort of finally got together, and we sort of had like this group discussion. Like I left, I had a bunch of notes, for session 0 already, for when I was going to do session 0 with all these questions. And when everybody was together, then I sort of dropped, all these group questions, like what do they want to focus on, roleplay, exploration, combat, the graphicness, interests, pantheons, and gods as well, because, we do have some holy characters in our party, and sort of do a little bit of final bit of character creation and maybe discuss some recent events leading up to the party meetup.
Yep, good opportunity to link some backstory, for sure.
Yep.
So...
And that's actually something I did to make sure. This is actually a cool idea I had for the campaign, and it just spawned out of nowhere. But I think this is actually a pretty cool idea for session 0, or how people come up with characters. You have a sort of, you have a story sort of already thought of. You have a little bit of a story, in your head already. And, you have your world at least. So in my world, hunters are, this sort of prestigious, big class that sort of everybody looks up to and everybody wants to be for the most part. So I just sort of was, talking to somebody about their character, and these 2 questions spawned. I'm like, these are actually really good 2 questions. And I sort of asked this to everybody from then on, and that actually helped everybody make a character that, even though they weren't talking directly, like in the beginning, about their characters, all their characters work brilliantly together, and all of them have sort of a common goal that they can work towards together. And I asked them, why do you want to become a hunter, and what do you want to accomplish as a hunter? And these two same questions, 6 people, completely different answers, every single one of them. But at the same time, it has a common goal.
Right. And I think that that's kind of the best case where it works out. When you... I'm trying to think of what I'm going to say here, because I'm going to lead into the next thing. When you don't build the characters together, they're apart, but then you bring them together. You take them with you to the session 0, if you will. But I feel like a lot of times, especially like long term, if you don't have a session 0, what I find ends up happening a lot, unless the stars align, is player A wants to play a fighter, player C wants to play a fighter, and then one or the other gives up, saying, okay, well, I'm gonna shift my idea a little bit, and I'm gonna be, you know, a cleric instead. But then they're like, because we needed a healer, but I didn't really want to be that. And you know what I mean? I feel like that a lot of times that happens. People get so attached because they made their character. They're like, I made it, and then I brought it to the session 0. I find it's better to make them there. I know it's time consuming, right? My session 0 usually ends up being pretty much a session, but that's also because I'm thinking about like map building too and starting that, whatever. But you know, I think there's a lot to be said about, rather than taking your character to the session 0, is making like I think it's fun to make the characters together. Like, be like, I have a few concepts, but like try not to commit anything too heavily, because I feel like a lot more creative characters come out that way. But also, like, I'm trying to think, you're not so locked into this one that you already made. Then now, because then you're like, I want to play this one because I made it, right? And then sometimes the stars don't always align when you do it that way.
Yeah, and in my case, there was, you know, a bit of luck to it, but I also did emphasize, you know, the uniqueness of characters. And again, I did, even though they were making their characters not all at the same time or all together, I did, you know, make everybody's characters available to each other. Also, like, they couldn't edit, but they could see everybody's characters, and I sort of explained, okay, we have a wizard, we have a rogue, we have a fighter, we have a monk, etc., etc. And I sort of gave the other person's general character, you know, like, it didn't go into crazy detail, but I sort of said, okay, here's our wizard. He basically just really wants to know things in his world, and he wants to become a hunter because even though he doesn't care about the title itself, it gives him access to this information. So he's sort of one of those characters. And then, you know, so everybody sort of has a general idea what everybody wants. And those 2 questions really came into play with that. So instead of me having to give a crazy description of each character, I sort of just gave their answers to the question and what they were playing, really. And again, these questions really helped them have a common goal, even though they had different takes on these goals.
Right. So, one second here. So, yeah, it's good for, right, you have the setting, right? You talk about the setting, or maybe beforehand, whatever. You get the setting, blah blah blah. You get the characters, blah blah blah. That's all set. But you know, it's a good space to talk about if you have any like house rules that people need to know, your style of gameplay. Like, it's a good, it's good to analyze yourself. Like I keep saying, I'm a simulationist, right? Because like sometimes the players don't feel special because it's like, I just died. What the hell? I didn't know this could happen. And unfortunately,
what would happen in real life?
Yeah, which that's the kind of game I want to play. It doesn't mean that's the sort of game that you want to play. And Shadzar he's talking about. You don't need to fill all the roles. The quote unquote roles, like the tank, the healer, and I totally push that because I think that, right, because if you want to say you have 4 players and 3 of them want to be rogues of different, they're like, we want to be a fucking thieves guild, like whatever, and do like thieves guildy sort of intrigue or like thiefy sort of stuff, whatever, and then there's just like one guy that's a different class, but he somehow is tied into the Thieves Guild, right? Like you can do that, like for sure. I don't think
Yeah.
you need you, especially in some of the. I don't know. I don't think it necessarily depends just on the system. I think it depends on the GM, right? You have the dial as the GM, and you can set it at any level you want. You can crank it all the way up to 10 or all the way down to 1. So
Yeah.
I think you talk about, right? What do we want to play? Oh, we all want to be rogues and like our fighter guy that's like just the meathead or whatever. And you play what you want to play. I think it's as simple as that. You know, don't feel like you need to get stuck in these preset roles just because that's what, you know, you're supposed to do in World of Warcraft or, you know, Baldur's Gate or whatever it is you're playing. You know, just play what you want to play. And if you have a GM that cares about the players having fun, you will have fun. You know, especially if you guys can all, you know, communicate and be like, yeah, this worked, that didn't work. I want to do this kind of thing with my character. You know, talking about backstories, whatever it is, right? You know, I just think planning is healthy, communication's healthy. You know, in a team-based game, right? This isn't League of Legends or whatever, where it's a bunch of solo laners that are all queued together, right? You're supposed to actually be some sort of a team, you know. People that you would
Kind of like having a
die
bit of
for.
a ragtag group. We don't fill all the boxes, but I tried to put a lot of emphasis on people playing the characters they envisioned. Like they're all really proud of their characters and they're really excited to play them. So
like Tychus, Stormfist.
yes,
Did I
like
tell
Tychus
you?
or Boulder Dash or Thunder Distant Rain. Sing characters. Bronwyn, Chunk, our bard. Ridiculous.
I need you to do me a favor, by the way. There needs to be a fight club, and Tychus needs to go against a half orc that's like half, you know, like he's just like a total badass because that's what happened to Tychus.
Well, I could probably do that.
But you gotta let him win, and then so he can get that sense of completion.
Don't worry, he's still got his bound sword, so he's fine. Or no, wait, is it Maul?
What?
Well,
Yeah, no, this wasn't when he played in the other thing where I think it's his backstory for yours, as he came from, you know, New Hala, blah blah blah.
Gladiator.
And yeah, he lost to a guy in the fight ring. It was like super close, and I was like, oh, buddy. And he's like, I want revenge. But all right, so
See if I can find them.
yeah. No problemo. So, any other thoughts on why you should have a session 0? I mean, I think we covered most of the grounds, but
Yeah, like you said, like one of the big things to discuss is sort of house rules and the way you're gonna do things, because there are a lot of people that, you know, might not be okay or might not be exactly interested in the way you're gonna do things. You know, some people might be looking for more of a traditional, oh yeah, this is an RPG. You know, this happens at this level, this happens at this level. Let's do that. Some people might be more interested in more of a open world. You know, like in a living world sort of thing, which is the way I'm doing my world. It's an actual ecosystem. You know, the magical. Right. The magical world of Showing Dragon isn't just going to poof out of nowhere when you hit level 20. It's always there. Right. And I will, you know, and I will tell you, you know, if it's there, you know, I will give you clear signs that it's there. So, you know, if you avoid it, you avoid it. And I'll do everything I can to sort of make sure you don't encounter it, but it's there. So if you know, decide to run face first through all the danger signs and, you know, fight a dragon, you know, sure, that's
on you.
If you die, that's on you. Yeah. Right. I'll do what I can, and I'll do what I can to sort of keep your character alive. But if your character's suicidal, it's gonna die. Like that's not the game being bad. That's your character being suicidal.
Right.
I think that
some
Session
people
0.
Yeah, go ahead, Marcus.
I just think that another perspective, it kind of helps you pick out which are going to be a little bit more responsive and a little bit who might need a little bit of prodding or to pay special attention by the wayside, or aren't as outgoing, maybe don't jump right into a situation as the others.
Absolutely.
Just
Yeah,
gauge
no,
your group.
yeah, for sure. I totally agree. It's not just a method of weeding out the weak, if you will. No, it's a really good chance to analyze your players, for sure. You know, you got introverts, you got extroverts, you got people that want to just like they just enjoy watching things unfold. They don't necessarily want to be an action taker. No, it's a good opportunity as somebody running a game to look at everybody and be like, okay, this is that guy, that's this guy, and also you as a DM, GM, what have you, ask questions, right? That's the best way to get answers. Or you know you ask questions that get people to think, right? And you'd be like, you know, how do you want your character to change over the course of a campaign? Or you could just ask little things like, what is the most important thing to you? Like, what is one thing you would never give up, right? Or what's this and that, right? And you're literally putting all that, you know, future adventures, and you're taking it right out of their brain, and you're just putting it right in your pocket, right, for later. So it's a real good
What I've tried to
opportunity
do.
to see who they are.
Backstory.
Yeah, to see who they are as players, to see their characters, right? And then you get to jump into something fun. So, right, we've been talking about a lot about like what is a session 0? Why would you have a session 0? So, I mean, the overview, right, is step 1, right, is talk about the game, not the characters first. What are you going to use for a system? What genres are you going to play? What's the setting? Where in that setting are we starting, right? Are there any like required themes that like you want? Like, oh man, I'm a paladin. I want to use my awesome paladin stuff. I want there to be undead. Like, can we make that happen, right? It's just stuff like that. And then talk about the characters themselves, right? I personally like to make them all at the table. I feel like that way, people are a little more open-minded. They're not like, this is my character, right? It should be your character, but it's also kind of our character, right? Because we're all doing this together. I'm not saying I'm gonna take your sheet, but like,
No.
you know what I mean, right? We're all doing this together, right? So
Right.
it's somewhere in between, like being open-minded and like not being a pushover, not being like, oh, I guess I'll play that because we need to fill that role or whatever, right? Plus, rolling stats is fun. Like, if
Did
you
roll
play,
most of our stats together.
yeah, and I just love that, and I'll be like, oh man, I got an 8. Like, my character's just so dumb because like whatever, you know. And then you get like that one, you're like, shit, I rolled an 18, yeah. And I don't know, it's fun to do. It's a good like, you get out those pre-game whatever you want to call them. But
Yeah, I rolled a super
did it.
charismatic barbarian.
yeah. But use it, players and GMs alike, just bounce ideas off each other, right? And intertwine those characters as much as you're comfortable with before the game, because it gives them reason to stick together. And also because I'm looking at you, they're loner characters. They don't work. Yeah, man powder. I'm looking at you, man.
Yeah, I made those in the past.
Outside of a novel, they don't work. They never
Yeah, and that's
work.
actually
Just trust me.
yeah, and that's actually
Like-
and that's actually the thing. That's actually one of the things that really made me realize that maybe I want to try DMing. Is that all my characters, all these sort of things, all these stories I had, I always sort of came up with these stories and these really interesting things, but it just character-wise, it just didn't work. But when I looked at them, I was like, wow, this would be a pretty cool thing to do. This would be an interesting campaign. This would be an interesting story. And that's one of the things. Like, I think I'm just better at creating stories than characters, and that's one of the other reasons I think I'm gonna try being a DM.
I mean, that's fair.
I mean, if you take a look at Fenrir's backstory, for example, if you remember that one, Dylan.
I remember the character. Hold on, it's coming back to me. Cult or a secret organization of magic, and he gets. I remember there's an inconsistency because he was an elf, though he couldn't. You can't be put to sleep by magic, but he was put to sleep in there, and
He wasn't put to sleep by
sister-
magic. He was just knocked out. But yeah,
oh, and like sister and underground stuff. I remember it was really complex, but
yeah,
yeah, you know, especially if you're starting off at level 1, it's like, I was a farmer yesterday.
Yeah. And that's something else I've sort of touched
Right.
on and became better as. Like, after I left Joe
Yeah.
Campaign, my characters become a lot more character-y now. They're a lot better.
So if you see
A couple edgelords, but
if you see Shadzar, right? When you present the story during session 0 and the players don't like it, you have nothing else to turn to, right? You know, I like building the backstory together. Be like, hey, you know, our characters should know each other. Sometimes I roll randomly and be like, oh, my guy was a pirate, right? So somehow I know your dude because I was a pirate and whatever. Like, it just, like, using some of the tools to randomize your backgrounds and stuff, it makes it a lot more fun and a lot less awkward. Like, the loner character is just, like, super unagreeable and not fun. You know, or if you don't have, even if you have a good hook in the beginning, you're thinking of the long term, like, why the hell would anybody want to throw in with these ragtag bunch of, like, fucking danger-seeking, like, murderers or whatever, right? There's always an excuse if you're like, yeah, that guy's been my friend forever, and, like, whatever. I just love that guy. Or, like, no, we all know each other because, you know, our cousin got married and somehow we all got looped together and we know each other and we've been hanging out. I don't know. I have no idea. But so yeah, you know what?
it's actually kind of funny.
Go ahead.
That you bring that up. It's because I had this whole story. I had these. I mean, you start in a tavern as you do. This interesting story about how these people would come together under these circumstances, and started, they all went off in different directions, started doing different things, and they kind of got swept up in my plot by accident, like forced together.
Well, you know the
Their
saying.
arguing went to a point that they just kind of all agreed to just go on this quest and ran out of the tavern. I was like, oh, okay, that solved itself.
Like I said, you know the saying. No plan survives contact with the enemy.
No kidding.
Right, so do the planning together. It works a lot better. Just try it.
I'm gonna keep that in mind for next time. It worked this time, but
yeah, for sure, it definitely works really well. If you want to do an accent, right? It's a good be like, hey guys, I want to try some. What if I sound like this? What if I sound like this? And like, you know, be like, you know, you can test that out and be like, nah, man, that sucks. Or like, oh yeah, no, that's the one. Or if you're just like, you can just use your normal voice. You don't have to do that stuff. I'm just giving examples of, you know, do that kind of stuff together. So all those little things compound into like this really weird, awkward first few sessions if you don't do that. So yeah, the more pieces of that puzzle you can like put into place, I think the easier it is to get going, right? Which is what we're talking about, getting going.
Yeah.
Just and a note: if you make a character that's a dick, that's you being a dick. So don't do that, right? Because a lot of people like, well, my character would do that, man. He would be all a dick like that. No, that's just
we
you,
added
man.
one like that.
You made your character a dick. And if everybody is like on board, you're like, oh guys, I'm gonna make a character that's a dick. But by like the end of the campaign, or like it's gonna be like, here's some comedic relief, or if everybody is like, oh yeah, please like make that character that's a dick on purpose because that's what we all want, go for it. But if you're just like, I'm randomly like, this is gonna be like a sneaky dick, like he's just gonna sneak in there, right? No. Anyway, like. If they don't know about it, the default
added a character.
Yeah, the
Who's
default
kind of a dick.
Yeah, the default is like, we play role-playing games to like get away from all those dicks of the world. So a lot of times in a long-term game, it's just grating on people, and they might not say anything because they like you because like you're a good friend, or they're just like, I want to play in this game and I like the character if he just wasn't a dick. But you know, good communication. Try not to be a dick. Later again. Don't be a dick phrase. I'll give you a clip later.
Aww.
Okay. Do it. Do it. And you know what? I haven't really done this, but I should, because my session zeros always last so long, is run a quick exercise with them. Because I did have it happen in one kind of by mistake, because somebody had to leave and there was two, and we're like, oh, we'll have those two meet in the place, and then we'll bring other people on. But if you can swing it, right, try and have like a little snippet, right, of like, this thing happens, and then either a cliffhanger or like if they're, example, if they're meeting in the tavern, or if they're meeting in this and that, whatever, do the meeting, and then they set off on the adventure on the first actual session. You could just start, you could forego the meeting and be like, yeah, everybody just knows each other and we're starting the mission, or whatever. But you know, especially for mine, my session zeros last forever, because I try and tell people, like, don't make anything and then make it together. So they end up being pretty much as long as the whole session, because it takes a while to make a character. And it just doesn't happen. But I feel like if I can speed things up, it would be more interesting, because you don't just want to make that character and be like, you're all pumped and you're like, yeah, right? And then just nothing, and they're like, okay, I'll see you next week. So, you know, try it. I'm going to try it next time. You do that for your players, right? Set up like a little mini thing.
I think that would be good.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty much what I get for session zeros. But if you guys, I don't know if you guys have anything that you're like, yeah, this worked when I did it, or maybe anybody that's watching, if you've been like, yeah, I was a part of a session zero and it was super awesome when they did this, or whatever. I'll give like 20 seconds.
Oh god, that whistle does not sound good through a headphone. Ow.
Yeah. Alright, the first rule. Yeah. Okay, so we'll go to just the last thing here. I was just gonna ask you guys if hold on, shoot. Alright. Coolest tabletop role-playing game moment. It can be as a player, it can be as a new GM. Just like we'll start with Marcus. It seems like Marcus is taking a backseat a little bit most of the time. So yeah. not to put you on the spot, but just a favorite moment from a game that you've played in or run, you know?
It's hard to choose. I have a favorite for each.
Sure, go ahead. I'll have two favorites.
My favorite would have to be probably
No pressure.
when we elected our as leader of our current campaign completely by accident. The whole group of people just turns on this one character who is just trying his best. He's a clown, he just wants to make everyone happy. And he suddenly voted of this group that's trying to rescue a kidnapped little girl. He speaks in a very chunks speak like this, and our voice of reason is the best thing. Like, having a very tense moment defer to Chunk. It's always funny.
Okay.
And I think as a player, it would be... For that session, I played the dwarf who could throw her axes.
Yeah, we did the, what was it, the, Super Tropers, and I tried to put as many tropes in as I could, the one shot.
I think being able to get all those attacks in on the demon just by throwing the random weapons you allowed me to pick up, that was very cool.
Oh, yeah. All the cultists who are dead, and you picked up their weapons, yeah. You're just, like, chucking them, yeah.
I could not believe that worked.
It did. you got good rolls. Like it wasn't a proficiency necessarily. It was just like, yeah,
It was
good.
luck. I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
But I'm rolling dice for lucky.
Love rolling dice. Well, nice. All right. Some cool moments, which we'll have to run some more one shots. What about you, man? Powder.
This is less of just an individual moment, though there were definitely some highlights in this, but just a session in particular, right, an IRL session that me and Nick are a part of. So just for a little bit of background, basically, we were sent to retrieve a book from a art library, which is inside a temple. And in this dwarven village, when we finally get to the dwarven village to actually go and head to this temple, we find out that the temple's been overrun by ogres. And we after trying to get the village on our side and the likes, see if we can maybe raid it. They say they're adamant about it. They're not going to help out, but they do give us, they do tell us, oh, there's a back entrance and the likes, and there's this dangerous creature that's guarding it, sort of hyping it all up, like saying, okay, this is the this is the dungeon, this is the way you're meant to go here to go clear the temple. So, our kobold rogue had snuck off ahead of us, and he didn't hear any of this. So to him, it's just a temple with the archives in it. So he just strolls into this temple, sneaking, and finds out not long after that it's overrun by ogres. And as he tries to run off, he fails a stealth roll. The ogres notice, and he's essentially chased out of the temple by all these ogres through the front gate, and the whole town hears us. So the party goes to help out, and we have this fight of the ogres. My favorite moment of that fight in particular would be when I actually killed one of the ogres and used it as a great club against another ogre, which I actually rolled a nat 20 on. So not only was it an epic attack, but it was a nat 20 on it as well. So yeah, we killed the ogres there, we head in, we killed the boss, we checked the archives, and when we finally finish all of this, turns out, because of the way the kobold rogue snuck ahead, we actually did this dungeon backwards. Yeah, we had done this dungeon completely backwards. We had done the boss first, then the ogres, and then we actually ran into the back entrance. And killed the beastie that was there, which was a manticore. So because of this kobold just sneaking ahead of the party without listening, we did the dungeon in reverse.
Kind of reminds me of like when you do a stealth mission, right? Like you got the party that like stealths and you have awesome rolls and you make it all the way through, and then you like fail your last one and the whole dungeon comes like crashing down on you after.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, sweet guys.
Yeah, we still haven't gotten over that.
Well, sweet guys. Oh man, it's 9:47. I'm running out of things to talk about. So, yeah. I mean, I had an awesome time, right? Talking about session zeros, talking about getting started. If anybody,
thank you for inviting us.
Yeah, of course. And we should run some more stuff together, especially if you guys are running some stuff now, right? Maybe I'll come and jump in a one shot or whatever. I don't know if Manpowder, I don't know if you are streaming any of your stuff. You were streaming. Maybe. If he's still here. Hello?
Oh yeah, sorry, I had my mic muted. No, I haven't actually streamed, any of the sessions yet. We've only had session 0, but I might stream it. I don't know. I mostly stream the actual games I play. With some people just my Twitch is just me fucking around with a bunch of other like-minded idiots, essentially, and having a laugh doing it.
We should put a link, Dylan, to his Twitch.
Do it. I don't know if he changed his name, so I don't have it offhand.
I did actually make a new one. Here, I'll post it.
Yeah, do it.
I'll just post it in your I'll just post it in your chat.
It's alright. Yeah, do it. Anywhere we. Yeah, there you go. Anywhere we can find you on the internet, go ahead, put it in.
So yeah, just a little bit of self-promotion there.
Do it.
There you go.
It's awesome. Do it. Well, yeah, that's all I got. So anybody that's watching, right? Or you guys, if you have any cool ideas of like what should we talk about, I don't know. Um, Go ahead, shoot us up. Um, I'm gonna be bringing in next week my buddy Anthony that I was talking about. We're gonna talk a lot about a little more of the nitty gritty, I guess, of DMing, like homebrew specifically, and what kind of shit we like to do. And hopefully you guys can come on and whatever talk about shit you like to do. So
I demand a place at the table when you talk about villains.
yeah, yes,
Homebrew is
that
definitely
is
something
that is
I've
a
done a lot of
feature.
experimenting with.
So I've yeah.
No, ask me about my vampire homebrew. It's awful. Or my monster.
What?
Ever
Maybe
since
we'll
your
bring it up.
campaign, Dylan, I've basically played nothing but homebrew.
Yeah,
So
buddy.
I've done my fair bit of experimenting, and
And
it's a lot of
tabletop
fun.
and everything.
It's a lot of fun,
Ooh.
but it's also a lot of work.
Cut that right. All right, guys. So I think this is where we cut it off. So thank you guys for hanging out for several hours and talking about all the nerdy stuff. So
Thank you.
I will catch you guys later. See ya.
See you, mate.
Hey, tight. This was sweet. King takes and queen. Oh my goodness, that was sweet.
This is my final night being featured on the front page of Twitch to kind of showcase. Yep.
Give Dick a chance.
Give Dick a chance.
Yep.
Give Dick a chance.
Give Dick a chance.
Yep.
Give Dick a chance.
Give Dick a chance.
Yep.
Give Dick a chance.
Give Dick a chance.
Yep.
Give Dick a chance.
Give Dick a chance.
Yep.
Give Dick a chance.
Give Dick a chance.
Yep.
Give Dick a chance.
Give Dick a chance.
Yep.
Give Dick a chance.
Give Dick a chance.
Yep.
Give Dick a chance.
Give Dick a chance.
Yep.
Give Dick a chance.
Give Dick a chance.